You will be judged not just on your good days, but also on your worst days. You will face losses and tragedies and medical emergency runs that will stick with you forever. You will learn lessons from these days. You will find the strength to move on, even when it seems impossible. In this job, tradition is important, but our success is based on our ability to adapt to whatever challenge is thrown our way.
In tonight's Common Ground segment, we look at the bipartisan effort to secure additional federal funding for the families of first responders who have died or suffered permanent disability from service-related cancers. Joining us, Minnesota Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar and North Dakota Republican Senator Kevin Cramer. Thank you both for being here. I want to talk about this bipartisan effort. I want to talk about the breaking news today and reaction to it of the spending freeze. Here is the Senate Minority Leader and the White House Press Secretary.
In an instant, with no precedent, no justification, no legal grounds, Donald Trump has shut off billions, perhaps trillions of dollars that help American families every single day.
People who are receiving individual assistance, you will continue to receive that. And President Trump is looking out for you by issuing this pause because he is being a good steward of your taxpayer dollars.
Senator Cramer, Democrats say this was unneeded chaos, and there were a lot of questions from around the country automatically when it happened.
Well, we hear that just about every day since Donald Trump became president, because every day is a new executive order or a bunch of executive orders. Every day there's a panic, and then the day after, everything calms down. This is temporary. He won a mandate and promised that he was going to try to get our fiscal house in order. It only seems responsible to me that a new president in a transition would take a pause. And as we know, of course, a court actually put a hold on that pause today.
Yeah, it's a pause. A federal judge holding it off till Monday. Senator Klobuchar, Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin from Virginia, said in a post, he does not impact individual assistance. He's talked to the White House, will not interrupt disaster recovery efforts, school and child care funding, health care for seniors, low-income families, funding for our roads, meals and lunches, or any other misinformation that has spread, suggesting that this was much to do about nothing. How do you respond to that?
It's chaos, and it is unnecessary. And if the president wants to work with us, the Congress, Article 1, the Congress of the Constitution of the United States, instead of having some bureaucrat in the Office of Management and Budget send out a memo saying, hey, all this funding is paused, we'll work with him. But that's not what this is. And I got a different message than Glenn Youngkin got. I got calls from my constituents. There were portals shut down for Head Start, for kids. There were moms calling who had teenagers, had their kids in teenagers in cancer studies, cancer trials that are federally funded through the National Institute of Health. You've got firefighters, a subject of our discussion today, and I appreciate our bipartisan work on this, who are the recipients of equipment grants and benefits. That's all happening. And federal judge had to step in to shut this down. And I think that's not the right way to do it. And I don't like chaos. I am happy to talk about government efficiency, but I think this is wrong for the American people.
All right, last thing. I do want to talk about your bill, but Senator Cramer, that is a concern, like how it was rolled out. There is a concern about funding and what's going out the door, and they want to get a sense of it all. But there was just a lot of worry today.
Well, welcome to Donald Trump's presidency. I mean, like I said, every day that he's been the president, he's been fulfilling promises. I know that's unusual for a lot of people. My gosh, the president actually does what he said he's going to do. But once again, it started out as chaos. It's already calmed down. It'll be fine.
Okay, moving on. Honoring Our Fallen Heroes Act, the bipartisan legislation expanding access to federal support for families of firefighters and other first responders who pass away, become permanently disabled from service-related cancers. A big deal that it needs to be addressed?
It really does. We have seen firefighters, their number one cause of death, cancer. You might think it's from immediate moments of running into buildings, but it's actually the cancer that lingers, similar to what happened to them when they were stationed next to burn pits. We're seeing more and more of this. We've started a cancer registry nationally. But what this is about, just as the 9/11 firefighters got this kind of benefit, is making sure if they get cancer, they and their families get the help they need. For me, it's personal. There is a widow named Julie Piter who came to me, and her husband, who had grown up watching the show Emergency, and imagined those characters. They were his heroes, and then he became one himself. And he died at a very young age, leaving a wife and kids behind.
You know, the stats, Senator Cramer, it's pretty amazing. The firefighter, occupational cancer is the leading cause of line-of-duty death in the fire service. 2023, 72% of IAFF member line-of-duty deaths were due to occupational cancer. I don't think people realize it.
Well, I don't think they do either, Brett, but you are seeing a growing awareness of the dangers of this job. And when people have been watching Southern California burn up, basically, but seeing the incredible work these people do, and then you apply a personal story like Julie Piter, and you have a real face, and other people relate to that. So it is clearly line of duty death, and it's clearly should be line of duty benefits. And it makes all the sense in the world.
You have differences about what happened today and how it's being dealt with.
Sure.
But you guys do work together on
we
different
like
things.
each other a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and it does happen.
Yeah, it does.
And I hope eventually, by the way, Democrats and Republicans in the Senate will join together to make the case that it's our job to get a budget, it's our job to figure out cuts, and to work with the administration on this. But that aside, on this issue, Senator Cramer, on agriculture issues, we work together. We have a river that sometimes floods over that goes through our states, the Red River. It doesn't divide us. It brings us together. And this bill is an example of the kind of work we do together.
Do you think it'll change, Senator Cramer, the dynamic on Capitol Hill?
I think it will. And just as an example, when we did this last year, and then now we followed up at the very beginning of this Congress, so we have time to sell it. But people as conservative as Ted Cruz and Marsha Blackburn, and people as liberal as Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren are on the bill. And that's a pretty wide swath. I think that speaks to the popularity of the issue.
And there's also a bipartisan bill in the House led by a Republican who is a firefighter and a Democrat. So we have growing momentum for this legislation.
Well, thank you very much for coming and handling the news of the day. Pass on the word to your colleagues. Thanks.
We'll do
Thanks,
that.
Brett.
You can see all the Common Ground